Hi, welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Well, my friend Hugh sent me an article last week and he asked if I would like to actually respond to it on The Daily. So I welcome that sort of correspondence. So I thought what I'd do is, rather than just sort of talking about it, I would actually read the article and respond as we go through the article. This might take a little bit longer than we usually do an episode like this, but I think it's worth responding to. So let's get into it. The title of the article is What I Want Guys to Know About My Non-monogamy. Here's how it normally goes down. I meet a guy who has something special in his face, a soulfulness that resonates with me. There's this firecracker moment when our eyes connect for the first time and bing, we want each other. Yep, that's called sexual attraction. That's purely physical. It's infatuation. It's sexual arousal. That's something that happens between humans. It's more than physical attraction. It's spiritual. It's deep. Actually, no, it's not. What you've just described is exactly what physical attraction is. It is nothing more than that. It's something really real. By the way, really real shouldn't be there. If something can't be more real than real, it's redundant to call it really real. But anyway, that's a side note. We're not here for the grammar. We go out a few times, we have intense, intimate conversations into the wee hours of the night, and the kind of sex where you start seeing God. Everything's going swimmingly for a few weeks or months, and then suddenly he's gone. Not completely gone. I'll hear back from him if I contact him first and maybe even see him once in a while, but he's no longer making an effort. It's inexplicable to me because things were going so well. Well, let me stop there and explain why this has happened. Because what you've done by actually just giving yourself sexually to another person without any underlying commitment and without expecting anything of that guy in return is you've actually just given him permission to take what he wants and leave whenever he wants. You've said to him it's okay for you to be used as his form of self-gratification, him to take you, reduce you to an object and use you for self-gratification, and that's it. And that's why these guys are ditching you, because of the promiscuity that you're using, you think is a pathway into intimate connection and deeper and something more meaningful, but it actually isn't. It's the exact opposite. We were falling in love and it was glorious. You weren't falling in love, that's the point. Why would anyone walk away from that? Because you weren't falling in love, okay? I'm an attractive girl, I'm smart, funny, cool, self-sufficient. When I find guys who I'm only into for sex and vice versa, I can keep them enthusiastically coming back to me for years. Yes, that's because they are using you, and there's a selfish inclination in human beings to use other people, and if someone is willing to allow themselves to be used, then those selfish people will keep using you. That's why that's happening. The problem happens when I meet someone with whom I clearly feel the beginnings of a love connection. These guys, these real connections, are the ones I'm most interested in developing long-term romantic affairs with. And that's natural because that's what the human heart really wants, is genuine commitment and fidelity. And they are also the ones who are the most freaked out by my assertion that I have no desire to be monogamous with them. Well, here's the problem straight away. So you start by saying, I want to develop a long-term romantic connection with them, but then you go on to say to them, I'm not interested in being monogamous. I want to be promiscuous and sleep with lots of other people. Well, you can't have the connection and the promiscuity. The two don't go together. I don't do monogamy. I've done it before, didn't like it, never want to do it again. Well, that's kind of interesting because you don't sound particularly old. Now, I'm only guessing here. You don't sound particularly old. I'm doing monogamy. I've committed my life to monogamy with my wife. We've been married for 12 years now this year, and we're only really getting started. So I'm not sure how you can do monogamy for what sounds like a very, very short period of time. You know, monogamy is not something that you flick in and out of or say, well, I gave it a go for a couple of weeks or a month and it didn't work for me. That's not how monogamy works. Monogamy only works when you commit yourself to it and you give yourself to it, not just sort of jump in and out of it. And at this particular moment in my life, I'm not super stoked about relationships in general, since I've just come off of 7 years of back-to-back relationships. I desperately need to be single for a while so I can focus on all the things I want to do for a change. Well, then that's great. Be single. But being single means not having sex with random strangers or just random sex with other people. That's not singleness. Singleness is where you are single and you are not romantically intertwined in any way with another person. That's the only way you can actually find yourself and connect yourself without other people. So singleness and having sex, promiscuous sex, are not the same thing. But while I might be off relationships, I'm not off sex. Okay. And I'm certainly not off love. Well, you see, love is not... What's that famous quote from Princess Bride? You keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means. I want both of those things with cool, respectful, hot people who don't need or want a commitment from me. You would think this would make me every man's wildest dream, except that it really doesn't. Well, who knew that? Maybe there is something more here. Even men who are failing in their masculinity know, instinctively in their heart of hearts, even when they fail to respect women, that in actual fact that relationships and sexual intimacy should be about something more than just a one-night stand or something passing and meaningless. Okay, you see as a practitioner of solo polyamory, which is actually code word for promiscuity, a form of polyamory that means you have multiple romantic or sexual relationships, but no committed or primary partner, promiscuity, I come with a certain level of upfront honesty. When I meet a new guy, I lead with this information just to make sure they understand that, I ain't ever gonna belong to you, dude. Be cool with that and we can hang. But what I'm finding over and over is that even the most commitment-phobic guys don't like it when you close the door to possible future commitment. Well, who would have thought that? Maybe what that means is you should stop and actually be reading the tea leaves, because what that is actually telling you is that even commitment-phobic guys who are failing in their masculinity, in their heart of hearts, instinctively, something tells them that this is not the way they're supposed to be operating. Instinctively, they know that they are actually created for commitment and exclusivity when it comes to sexuality, not transitional, non-committed, promiscuous relationships. Why does this happen? It's that crappy double standard that says men can sleep around and be praised for it, but women are met with slut-shaming and disrespect. Sorry, it's a question. Is it that? Or is it because most people are inherently possessive of their lovers on a primal level? Or is it just basic fear and insecurity that makes men run from wild women? I'm thinking it's probably a combination of these factors and more. No, but we'll see it's not. What it is in actual fact, it is totally natural, and the correct response is to run 100 miles when someone, be they male or female, actually says to you, I'm not interested, I just want to have sex with you, but I'm not interested in anything more, I don't want any commitment, I don't want anything else. Because that's not natural to the human state. We are actually made for love, and love is about exclusivity and self-giving and commitment to another person, and that person is saying all the opposite things to you, and so your natural instinct is actually right. You are in touch with reality if you run 100 miles an hour from that. If you say that's a good thing and you want to embrace it, then you are the one who is not connected with reality. I'm thinking, where are we? Either way, it's a pain in the ass. She's got a donkey. Didn't know that. All I want is to have fun, respectful, passionate, loving relationships without monogamy or commitment, and I can't seem to catch a break. The reason you can't seem to catch a break is because without monogamy or commitment, you can never have a respectful, truly passionate, truly loving relationship. You don't even have a relationship unless you first have commitment. So that's why you can't catch a break, because you're actually just saying to men, hey, use me. And then you're thinking that having someone use you is a relationship, or that you should be able to find a relationship out of that. You won't find it. Maybe it seems counterintuitive in light of mainstream culture's obsession with monogamy. You mean mainstream culture's connection with reality. But I can see no reason why people can't fall in love with each other without forsaking all others in the bedroom. That's because love is not what you were describing. In order to be in love with another person, you have to give yourself to that other person exclusively. If you don't commit yourself to that other person and give yourself exclusively to that other person, there is no love between you. If you can't give yourself to someone and be giving yourself to lots of other people at the same time, because there is no exclusivity, there is no genuine commitment there to that other person. And without that commitment, without that exclusivity, there is no love. Love is an act of self-giving for the good of another person. It's not self-gratification, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for self-gratification, not self-giving. I've fallen in love with more people that I didn't have committed relationships with than people I did. Once again, that's not love. What you're telling me here does not fit the criteria for love. There's no reason that love has to equal commitment and primacy. Yes, there is. There actually is, because love is not love without primacy and commitment. If you don't have that, you don't have love. That's the essential fundamental. Without self-giving, there is no love between two persons. There might be sexual arousal, there might be sentimentality, you might have self-gratification where you're using another person, but you don't have love. And that's the fundamental thing that's missing here. In fact, in my experience, the lack of commitment can make romantic love last much longer than it would have had I followed a conventional relationship path. Dating, moving in, engagement, and then marriage. Well, in actual fact, I would argue that the conventional relationship path should be dating, engagement, marriage, and then moving in. And the reason I say that is because the research on this is very clear. 3 out of 4 couples who cohabit together before marriage and then get married, 3 out of 4 of those couples end up with marriages that end in divorce. So in actual fact, you're far better off dating, building a solid friendship even before dating, then engagement, and then marriage, and then moving in, okay? Because you've got the commitment that actually makes moving in work. If you do the moving in bit and you try and do the marriage, but afterwards the commitment thing's around the wrong way. And also, how can your romantic love last much longer without the engagement and the marriage and the commitment? Like, unless you're talking about one of those Kardashian weddings that lasts 72 hours or something, authentic marriage is about a lifelong commitment. So how can you have a relationship that's longer than lifelong? You can't. I'm a firm believer in the concept that familiarity destroys passion, and I'd rather have the passion. Well, that's rubbish. That's a lie that you've bought into. My wife and I are 12 years married. We are now more sexually compatible with each other than what we were on the day we got married because we know each other more intimately. And that familiarity is precisely what has built the passion between us. It hasn't destroyed it. It's actually given us greater passion. I'm familiar with my damn friends. I want my lovers to be as hot for me as possible, and I want them to stick around. I just don't need to see them all the time. I mean, geez, go home already. I have work to do. So you want them to stick around, but then you want them to go home. So what you're actually saying is you don't want love. You don't want lovers. You want people to use on your terms. This is actually narcissism now. You want someone that you can use for sex and then kick out when you're no longer interested in being around them, but then you want them to stick around. That's narcissism. These two are not the same things. I also feel like we put too much pressure on new romantic relationships to turn into something. When we meet new potential friends, there's usually no one pushing super hard to turn the friendship into something. Everyone kind of accepts that maybe this could be a closer friendship and maybe not. And let's see what happens. It's chill, cold. That space and lack of pressure is what allows friendships to develop organically over time. So why do new romantic partners seem to think romance has to be all or nothing? Because instinctively that's what we know to be true. Because it is true. Instinctively we know that sex isn't just about the moment, that it should be about self-giving, and there should be something more here. Because we are doing the most intimate thing that two human beings can do together. And so instinctively, even if we aren't thinking and acting that way, our subconscious, our heart of hearts knows that it should be about something more because of the seriousness and the sacredness of what we are engaging in. It's never just a physical thing. That's one of the greatest lies in culture today. It's just a physical thing. It never is. The crazy thing is a lot of single people I know are actually practicing something that looks very much like solo polyamory, promiscuity. They date or sleep with multiple people at the same time. Yep, that's promiscuity. The only difference is most of the people I know don't communicate that to their partners. They hide this information in the fear of peeing someone off or freaking someone out, which is a totally valid concern, hence my dilemma. So she's right, her friends are being dishonest there, and that's not a good thing. If that's what they're doing, they are being dishonest. Friends have advised that I change my approach with new dating prospects. They think that if I withhold the information that I never want to be monogamous and I'm not interested in a primary relationship right now, I'll experience less of this disappearing BS. But I don't want to be dishonest. Well, you're right, and you shouldn't be dishonest because your friends are crazy to tell you that you should lie to people and just sleep with them and that somehow that'll make for better relationships. That is crazy advice. But I don't want to be dishonest. I feel like it shouldn't be so hard to find real connections with people who are as willing to let things develop naturally as I am, who don't want to possess me sexually or emotionally, who are as invested in their own development as individual human beings as I am in mine, and who value their romantic and sexual connections with other people enough not to give them up. Well, that's the thing. There is no real connections. It's going to be hard to find real connections with people because you aren't actually looking for real connections. If you're saying to people, I don't want you to give yourself faithfully and fully to me, there can be no real connection there. So there's no connection to have because they are not giving themselves to you. They are using you. And they've spread themselves around. They're using not just you, but lots of other people as well for their own gratification. To give themselves to you is the only way, and to exclusively to you is the only way you will find the connection that you want. I just want to fall in love and I don't want to tie anyone down or be tied down myself. Well, that's the thing. You can't fall in love without self-giving. And self-giving means self-sacrifice, means commitment and exclusivity. If you don't do those things, you can never fall in love. I don't see why these concepts should be mutually exclusive. Well, because they are. That's the point. They are. If you're a man who is dating, sleeping with, or otherwise seeing me, this is what I want you to know. When I look at you like I love you, it's probably because I do. Or at least I'm on my way there. But for me, falling in love doesn't equate to inhibiting your freedoms or my own. When I fall for you, it means you mean something to me, and I ultimately want to be a part of your life that makes you happy and builds you up. I'm not expecting anything from our relationship beyond the present moment. But I'm also not closed to the idea of a deeper connection developing. Well, you kind of are. If you're saying this relationship is only about the present moment, then how can you be open to a deeper connection? Because deeper connection and actually something that's actually going to develop means there is a future. But you're saying, I'm not interested in the future, I'm here and now. But then you are saying you are interested in the future. Doesn't work. I want to see what happens, but neither one of us is pushing or angling for any. I want to see what happens when neither one of us is pushing or angling for anything. But that's exactly what you're doing. You start your relationship. She told us at the beginning of the article by saying to men, if you're not into promiscuity, then we can't sleep together. So you actually start your connection with these men by actually pushing and angling for something. You tell them that this is what the deal is. I will never lie to you. Well, that's very good. You should never lie to people. I will never break my promises. What promises? If you don't commit yourself exclusively and mutually to another person, there is no promise in your relationship. So there's no promise to break. Unless, of course, you mean if I promise to bring home McDonald's for one of our one-night stand or hookups, I promise that I will always live through on that promise and I will get the McDonald's. Like that's the only kind of promise. But that's got nothing to do with your relationship. But there is no promise in your relationship if you don't commit yourself exclusively to another person. There's no promise to do anything. I will never ghost on you. Well, once again, that's invalid because it's redundant. Because you've already ghosted. The whole thing started. There is no relationship there. There is no connection to ghost on. That's the whole point. It's kind of like me saying to someone, I am never, ever going to renege on that contract. And they say to you, what contract? And then you say, the one I never signed. Well, there's nothing to renege on, okay? I'll never let insecurities or jealousy affect the way I treat you. I'll never tell you what to do or how to live your life. Well, you actually do. You start your relationships by saying to me, if you don't live your life this way, then we can't have any sort of connection. I'm not going to sleep with you. So you do actually tell men that they have to live their lives a certain way in order to be with you. And I don't expect you to make me a factor in all of your decisions. And I won't be mad at you for having romances and attractions and hot bedroom adventures with other people who want to make you happy. So in other words, I'm quite happy for you to use me and get your own gratification in other places if that's what you want to do. It's an absolute disaster. You will never find happiness in life. And that's why you're writing this article. Because you'll never find happiness by asking men to use and abuse you this way. All I ask in return is the same level of consideration and respect. Once again, there is no respect when you start your relationship by saying, I'm just interested in the sex, there's no commitment, there's no exclusivity, you can have sex with anybody, whenever you want, whoever you want. There is no consideration, there is no respect there. You have become a piece of meat for another person. You can fall for me right back and I'll give you warmth and killer sex and romance and laughter and absolutely no BS. Not such a bad deal, is it? Well, in actual fact, it's a terrible deal. In fact, it's a tragedy. This article, this whole thing is a tragedy. I'm probably willing to bet, based on what I know of these issues and based on what she's described here, that there is either some serious hurt in her life from previous relationships or a relationship, or there is dysfunction with her relationship with her father of some kind. He's either not there or the relationship is not in a good space or hasn't been in a good space at some point in life, because everything I see written here is a young lady who is desperately looking for intimate connection with a man because there was something missing or dysfunctional in her life, or she's been hurt and abused by other men and is somehow trying to get the power back in a very misguided way. But this is tragic. This is a huge tragedy. And you know what that final statement says to me? You can fall for me right back and I'll give you warmth and killer sex and romance and laughter and absolutely no BS. What that says to me is, in actual fact, this woman isn't really looking for promiscuous hookups. She is actually looking desperately for love. And this article reads like a cry for love. And that's why, to me, this whole thing is just such a great tragedy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily.